Hey everyone, this is Joe Massaro, and I am so excited today because not only do we have an author with us, Rita Gerlach, but we also have her here for the third time. So excited, so excited. And I am with Joe Massaro Ministries and Yahweh Sisterhood Book Club. So when you look at this video, please be sure to subscribe. This way you'll keep current onto all of the newest authors that we're interviewing. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited. I can't say it enough because I just love, love, love what you do.
Thank
I
you.
so do, and we'll get into all of that and all the reasons why I love it so much. But
Wow. Thank you very much. God,
so
that's
you
awesome.
were with us earlier,
Yeah.
last year, I believe it was, when we did Homefront Heroines.
Yeah.
And that was incredible. And Johnny Alexander, who we've probably had on 3 or 4 times, Amanda Barrett, Laura Lee Bliss, and yourself wrote these incredible stories during World War II.
Yes.
Yeah, so I so encourage you to get a copy of that book. And you have 4 authors telling stories in there. It's so worth it. And then this year, I believe earlier in the year, we did Mercy's Refuge, and it was celebrating the 400th anniversary of the sailing of the Mayflower. And this is one of the reasons why I love you. I felt like I was there.
Oh,
The
thank you.
research that you do, how you write, the characters, just so incredibly wonderful. And we'll get into that. Great book to read, great historical book to read. I just love learning about history, and you do it again in the book right in front of you, everybody, After the Rain. Let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
How did this book come about?
Oh my goodness. It several years ago, I was so enamored by the history of the Edwardian era. I had been reading books about it, and of course, then there was Downton Abbey, but I didn't want to replicate Downton Abbey, but it was very inspiring. So I had started back in like 2013, 14, starting to think about putting the book together. And there was a bunch of disruptions. I had a health issue that I had to take care of for years. So After the Rain got put on hold while I was writing Mercy's Refuge because I wanted to get that book out in time for the 400th anniversary. So finished After the Rain, and we ended up publishing it actually in 2015. But when I say it was put on hold and in the wings, I didn't know how to explain it. It was kind of like it was there, but it wasn't exactly how I wanted it. I wanted a better cover and things like that. So not long ago, the idea just popped in my head. Why not do a relaunch of this book? And I had met a wonderful young, I think, up and coming, best-selling Christian author named Hannah Linder. And Hannah's only 22, and she's extremely talented. She's written she's written books already. She's really good. And she has her own graphics company that she does. And we connected on a phone call. And I went and I looked at her work, and I said, hey, would you do a cover for me? I want to do a relaunch of After the Rain. And so she designed that cover.
So beautiful.
I sent it over to another proofreader who went through the book. And my husband, I actually self-published this book. My husband did the interior, and it has kind of a little bit of a classic, style to it. I wanted it to be a little different than a lot of things that are out there. For example, I don't know if you can see it.
Yes.
But after the title there's a little picture, and it's two birds in a nest. And that it's significant to the story when you read the story later on. So he did a great job of redesigning the interior, and Hannah did the cover. And so I did a relaunch, and I'm having a blast doing it. Having so much fun. So I had never considered doing a relaunch of a book before, but yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you did because I love the story and I absolutely fell in love with the cover.
Yeah,
I
cover is
just,
really good.
oh, it's beautiful. It really is. And
Yeah, she
I think,
caught the essence of the story. She really did.
yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
I think on the bottom of there, it says you are a celebrated author of inspirational fiction.
Hmm.
And it's so true. I have to tell you. But
And
there's something underneath the name of the title of the book.
yeah. Hmm.
Do you want to read that to us if you wouldn't mind? Can
Oh,
you do that?
yeah, sure. It says creating character. It's a quote. Creating characters with intense realism and compassion is one of Gerlach's gifts. It's a quote from the Romantic Times Book Review magazine.
Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
That
So
is just,
that's,
when I saw that, I was like, it's absolutely true.
thank you
Um,
very much.
I have to tell you, if you want to read some really wonderful, wonderful books that not only bring romance into them, but history, just they weave through so many different things, as in the book we'll talk about in a second. But you do it extremely well. So
Thank you very much. I
so
appreciate
let's just talk about researching this book,
it.
because that I think is a gift that you have, and not only research it, but putting it together into the story.
Yeah. Um, I, yeah, I love the research part. And a lot of time, some writers do all the research ahead of time. I do a lot of that, but as I'm writing the stories, sometimes there's things that come up and I'm like, I need to check that. I mean, it's a number of things. And so that's a fun part of writing. To me, it is doing the research. So I love it. I love doing it.
Yeah,
And
I like researching as well. So I find it fascinating when
yeah, it
how you take
really
that and put it
is.
into the type of book that you've written. And
And
there were things that I didn't even know.
uh-huh.
Like in the book, you talk about an earthquake that occurred.
Yeah. Yes. The Messina earthquake in Italy. It was really bad. I talked about two earthquakes actually.
Mhm.
There's the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. Um, and the hero in the book, Jackson, he went through that. He experienced it. And then the Messina earthquake, I'm not going to give too much of the story away, but
Right.
I do have that in there. You know, there's a lot of events in history that were significant that are kind of like forgotten,
Hmm.
or not known. And the way that I found out about that is there's a website that gives historical events by the year. And I had gone through, I think I went through like from 1900 up to 1908. And I just was scanning through and I saw that. So I started reading about it and wow.
Do you happen to know what that website is off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I can look it up real
Okay.
quick.
Because there's people who are writing that
I
will be listening to this, and
Yeah,
they are going to want to know that, and I'm going to want to know that as well. So,
yeah. I think it's a year by year. Hold on for just a second. Let me
okay.
turn this on.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to be pulling up
Mhm.
some of a special
I just turned my computer off.
uh, special boards that were no, and we can always post it later. We can
Yeah,
always post it on
I
the
didn't
page.
mean to do it. It's just me and technology don't mix too good.
Oh, you're doing well. You're doing well. I'm going to actually share the screen, everybody. So you're going to see something for a minute, and then I'm going to pull something up. Um, so let me just get this up here.
There you go.
And there we go.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you could tell us a little bit of history about these boards, and then tell us a little bit about the characters.
Well, I have an authors page on Facebook, and one of the ladies that is on my street team, Hula Gordy, and Hula, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She had this idea, and I had been posting the pictures, these photographs of people that inspired my characters, like the one of Louisa there. When I saw that, I said, God, she's, perfect
Yeah.
for how I envision her. And so Hula, I was putting these up on my author's page. Hula printed them out, and she made these lovely character boards.
Mhm.
I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I hadn't thought of making a character board, but I should.
She inspired me as well, so I'm working on one.
That's neat. Yeah, I always, when I'm writing a story, I always look for pictures.
Mhm.
And of course, before the age of photography, it's in order to do your research for like a historical before the age of photography, you have to look at paintings. And some of my past fiction works, that's what I've done. I'll go and I'll look at different paintings, and that gives me ideas for my characters. So, yeah.
Well, I'm interested in this one way over on my left. Can you see this right here?
Oh, yes.
Now, was he actually an actor? Because he looks real familiar to me.
Yeah.
I know who he is. So
That's William Powell.
William Powell, that's who it is. Yes. Oh my gosh.
I love William Powell. He did the Thin Man movies.
Yes. Yes. I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, that's got to be him. I
Yeah,
loved it.
that's William Powell. And he just, if this was a movie, if this book was made into a movie and he was living,
Mhm.
he would be Maxim, who is Louisa's father. He would have
Yes.
been he would have been just perfect.
I so
Even,
agree.
even the expression on his face and everything is just perfect.
So
No,
maybe kind of go on each one and just tell us a little
oh,
bit about each of
sure.
the characters so people will
Yeah.
have, because I love this. It just had the book come to life for us.
Okay. That sounds good. Who would you like to start with?
Um,
Let's start with the
the
main.
first board where William is, and just kind of tell us a little who the characters are.
Okay. The first, you said the first board, or do you want to
Whichever
start?
one you want to start with, go ahead.
Let's start with the main characters.
Okay.
Okay. The middle board. Okay. The lovely lady on there, Louisa. She is the heroine in the story. She is. Um, she lives with her father in Chevy Chase, Maryland, which was and is still today, kind of like on the outskirts of Washington D.C., just right there. And it was built in the early 1900s for the affluent,
Yes.
and they live in this beautiful home in Chevy Chase, right behind the Chevy Chase Country Club. And the reason why, one of the things that brought this all about with her, where she was living, and the fact that she's a city girl, she's wealthy, she has everything her little heart could desire, but she's not satisfied. And when I was a child, I had a great aunt that lived in this big house, at least it was big to me when I was little, house in Chevy Chase. And it was my father sometimes would take us to go over to visit her. She was a very elderly little lady. And I remember going down Wisconsin Avenue towards Washington, passing the country club. So my husband and I, when I was researching for this book, we drove down there. And I was like, it would be so cool if I could find my great aunt's house. Never could, never did, because I didn't know the name of the street. But we drove in to Lenox Street, and I saw this house, this beautiful early 1900s stucco. And that's the picture. That's the picture I want to take of Louisa's house, and I'll have to put that up on my author's page because I want to do a whole thing about some of the places that are in the story. We also, from there, drove over to Rock Creek Stables. Rock Creek is well known. It kind of weaves through Maryland and into Washington, D.C. And the stables are there. We went in and I talked to them and they let me have a little tour of the stables. The stables are kind of significant because as a wealthy young lady, she has her own horse there that's stabled there. And not to give a whole lot away, but that was a significant place in the story where she first meets Jackson. And Jackson is the hero of the story. This is kind of like a city mouse, country mouse kind of thing. He's very country. He's the denim jeans and the flannel shirt, and he's the guy that likes to live out on his father's horse farm in Virginia. And, he has a different outlook on life. And him and Louisa, they meet up and it's like oil and water at first. But he's exactly, I think I have it on the back of the book. Yeah. He becomes the love of her life. She becomes his biggest challenge.
Yes.
So it's not a contentious, not one of these kind of relationships, but it's just interesting how, I had to work out the relationship in such a way that you have two kind of opposites. Their lifestyle is very opposite, but their desires in life are the same, So that's the hero and the heroine. Now, if you look at that middle board where Louisa is, right below her, the picture there is my imaginary character, Beatrice. Beatrice Whitaker. She is Louisa's grandmother. She is purely British, and still holds to a lot of the nuances of being British. She's reserved. She also wants to hold to the old traditions that, she wants Louisa to marry into a family that she wants her to marry into. And so she's pushing her towards this person. Louisa resists it because he's just not, she doesn't want to go to England and be with this person she doesn't really know very well. She's not in love with him. She doesn't love him. So, and her father wants her to marry into money, but he wants her to marry who of her choosing too. So there's a lot that goes on between Louisa and Beatrice. The lady next to them, her name is Amelia Lockhart. She is the mother of Louisa's best friend, Amy. Amy is over in that first board, right near William Powell. And that is my vision of Amy. She's also grown up in an affluent family. Let's see. In that first board, the man on the right, Harrison, he is the valet to Mr. Borden, Maxim, and he's very loyal, a very loyal person, very loyal to the family and to Louisa. Then you have the little girl, Blossom. I just love Blossom.
Oh my gosh, me too. I love the photo too.
She is a Down syndrome child,
Mhm.
and her family just, she's loving and she's just the sweetest thing. And her family is very protective of her, especially Jackson. So that is Blossom, and she's one of my favorites.
Mhm.
Next to her, underneath it, Amy is Clara and Grant. They are employed by the Borden family. Grant takes care of the horses and the stables, and Clara is their housekeeper. She's a hoot. I love her to bits. Yeah, and she has a very motherly nature about her. She mothers them all, and she wants to cook all the time. And with Jackson's mother, she's very protective over her, and it's really great. I love Clara. Then next to her is my inspiration for the character of Annabelle. Annabelle Fairchild. She is Amy's aunt, and she lives in Long Island, New York, by the ocean. And uh, Louisa and Amy's mother, Mrs. Lockhart, visit Annabelle at Christmas time. And there's a whole bunch of things that happen in that. I don't want to give too much away here.
Have to read the
You
book.
know, I mean, I could have a tendency to do that. So
No.
I don't want to say too much about it, but yeah, they go there for a brief little holiday. And then the other board. The first gentleman there is Alan O'Neill, Jackson's father, and he is a loving husband to Emma, who is down in the corner there. And Emma has an illness that they're trying to figure out. And she's, you know, in pretty well, she's very sick. I'll put it that way. I don't want to say too much about that, but Emma and Alan are very, very much a strong marriage. They have a very strong marriage. Uh, Underneath of Alan is in the middle there, Mr. She put Mr. Lockhart, but he's actually a doctor. He's Amy's father. And then in the corner, there's Millie. Millie plays a big role in After the Rain. She is a housekeeper, a maid, and a confidant to Louisa. Louisa goes to her for a lot of advice. She's an Irish immigrant, and the boards here, these three, do not cover all the characters in After the Rain. I put up a whole bunch of other pictures too, of the children that are in the story. There's a little girl named Grace and a little boy named Dougie Smith. And the two characters that a lot of people tell me that they just, aside from Louisa and Jackson, are their favorites. And my husband, he's always telling me, you need to write a story about Maud and Mildred. Maud and Mildred are Louisa's elderly aunts. They are a hoot. They really are. And they're sisters. They're Civil War widows, and they live in this nice little bungalow out in Virginia. And Louise goes out there to see them. Now, Maud is an amateur ornithologist. She's just crazy about birds. So there's a whole thing with that. Mildred is is renowned in town for her jams and her jellies that she puts up. And her favorite book is the Sears and Roebuck catalog.
Yes, I remember that growing
Yeah,
up.
me too. So the Sears and Roebuck catalog started like it was in the 1800s, and you'd order it, it'd come in the mail, and Mildred would be all excited because the new one was coming, you know,
Mhm.
and she would buy a lot of things from that. Maud owns a brand new shiny automobile, a touring car, and that there's a whole thing in the story about that. Um, and I got to tell you, I love to mention people in my family history in my books whenever it's appropriate. And I have where Maud mentions to Louisa that she was given an Audubon print, okay, of a crane that she was given. The person that gave this to her was Mr. Henry Horan, who at the time was the Smithsonian Institute's supervisor.
Wow.
Okay, and he gave it to her as a gift. Henry Horan, is my great great grandfather, and he was indeed one of the Smithsonian's superintendents.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I just love that.
Yep. And I am going to put up on the author's page his picture, his photograph that I have.
And why don't you talk about your author page so people know where to go to find out more about it?
It's on Facebook. It's if you just type in Rita Gerlach author, it should come right up where you can just go
Yep.
there, and then you could click that you like to join, and that it's
Okay.
it's real easy.
I was searching around for my glasses that I thought I brought in with me, and I have no idea where they are. But let me just mention this. You talk about in the back of the book too, popular beauty items of the early 1990s.
Yeah, right.
And I love that you did that as well.
Yeah, that was fun too, because when you're writing an historical, you kind of have to look at everything. The fashion, what was the fashions of the time? What were I looked up about the beauty products and stuff that women had, which brings me to this. The book is called After the Rain. And After the Rain is Louisa's favorite perfume. After the Rain was called I think, I'm not very good at French, but Apres l'Andir perfume, and it was created by Guerlain,
Jacques
the
Guerlain.
House of Guerlain in 1906, and it meant after the rain shower. And believe you me, I tried to find that perfume. I wanted a bottle of it, and of course they don't make it anymore, And I've seen on eBay some and vintage bottles of it, but it's like in the hundreds of dollars. But I was always curious, what did it smell like? So yeah, it was fun doing the research for that. Was there something in particular you wanted to?
No, that was what I wanted you to talk about, so you did it.
Oh, okay.
So that was beautiful. And then you talked about popular music. And when I was looking at this and I said I wanted to share this, let me just I'm going to share the screen again. And I'm just going to play a little bit of The Merry Widow Waltz by Franz Lehár, 1905. This is absolutely incredible. So it may be for a minute, but just relax. Take a sip of your coffee or tea or whatever it is you're drinking.
And there you go. There's a picture of him.
Yes, and I'm just
This was like one of the most popular songs of the Edwardian era.
I could almost feel myself gliding across the dance floor.
Me too.
Yeah,
Whew. That was, that was such a romantic song. We
absolutely.
don't have music like that anymore.
We don't. I just
Oh,
when I turned it on, I was like, oh my gosh, I just love this so
mm,
much. Like
beautiful.
my husband loves big band, and
Yeah.
so do
Oh,
I. And I just, when I was listening again to this, I was just like, you can just imagine yourself in a dress like she wore,
yeah.
and just dancing, and it was that in itself was a great art between the
Yeah.
music and the dancing and how they held all these beautiful dances and
Hmm.
balls and oh my gosh, I could yeah
Yeah.
my mother would tell me I lived in the wrong time frame, that I should have been a little earlier in life because of my love for all of that. So
Yeah, me too. I'm right there with you.
okay, let me just
Mhm.
ask you this last question.
Okay.
What are you working on now?
I'm writing another Edwardian era, which is it's right on the tip there of the Edwardian era. It's actually a World War One
Mm,
era story. It's called Wait Until Morning, and it is on the home front here in partly Washington D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, as far as I know. Of course, it can take another turn and go north to Pennsylvania. Books, when I'm writing, it happens.
yes.
A character will pop up, or up they want to go this way. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun writing that too. And with all this stuff that's been going on with the virus, I was looking at some of the things about the pandemic of 1918, and I'm not writing about that, but there's kind of like a part of the path that the heroine is taking is leading up to that.
Hmm.
I don't know how to really explain what's in my head about it. Um, so the man that she loves is serving as a medic over in France, and her husband is also serving in France, and the heroine's name is Anna, and she ends up with her sister as it's actually three women. It's her sister Meredith, her mother. Her mother lost her husband. He was a flyer, and Meredith's husband is missing in action, and Anna's beau is over there as a medic. And so it's about these three women and how they're dealing with this whole thing of their men being away and the anxiety that they must have been feeling, not knowing that from day to day. You just did not know what news you were going to get. So, um, yeah. And it'll lead into the end of the war. It'll lead into that. So I'm
Okay.
having a lot of fun working on that. And I have other things in mind too. You did the interview with me for Mercy's Refuge, and I think you had even asked me
I
if
had
I had
asked.
a sequel, right? A
Yes.
sequel. And I was like, okay, well, let me think about this. And I'm kind of excited. I want to get this book done, so I can't work on two at a time.
Yes.
So I'll get this one done and I'll start. But I did start. I did. I started with I have a little brief synopsis where I'm gonna go,
Mhm.
and I started, at least I wrote the first 2 pages.
All right. I'm
And
so excited.
I don't know what I'm gonna name it, what the title will be yet, but it will be the heroine will be one of the descendants of the heroine in Mercy's Refuge. And it will be during the time of the witch trials
Mm,
in Salem. And I learned it wasn't just Salem, but it was all the outlining towns that were going through this. So I have a lot of research to do on that, and we'll see where it goes.
It
So
sounds
yeah, I'd
fascinating.
like
You,
to do
my
that.
friend, have an open invitation.
Oh,
Anytime you want to come back,
of
we're
course I will.
excited to have you.
Yeah, of course. I'd love to.
That is
It's
wonderful.
so fun doing
Well,
these interviews with you.
well,
You're
I
so
just I love them so much because I get to read these exciting books. But
good.
one of the things I love the most is you're not just not reading a book, but you're talking to the author. And I think that that makes such a huge difference. And in this case, you brought to life so many of the characters that we were able to see today and talk about. So I appreciate that so much. And I know everyone who reads this will absolutely appreciate it. So thank
Well, are we closing?
well, I want to ask
Or
you that last question would be, is there anything else that you want to add or
I
say?
was wondering if you would want me to read a few paragraphs.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
Um, all right. How about if I read? So a lot of people ask about the faith element in
Mhm.
these stories. The faith element, what I do is I weave it into the lives
And you do it so beautifully.
characters. It's not a real preachy book or something like that. You know what I mean? And so this is toward the end of the book, and I'm not gonna read the whole thing because I don't want to give away
Mhm.
what really is going on here, but and why and the wherefores and all that. But this is in chapter 42. Okay. It seemed as if time slowed as Louisa's car twisted to the right. People screamed and suitcases tumbled off the luggage racks. The train wheels screeched as the cars barreled along a sharp curve. It tipped. The broken axle ground beneath it. Pushed against the window, fear gripped her. Sparks flew into the air outside from beneath the car. Wheels locked, and the noise was deafening. Frightened, she looked forward to the door. He hadn't come through. Jackson, Jackson. She buried her head in her arms as the car skidded off the tracks. It tumbled over. The other cars tipped with it in the rear. She hugged the seat. She wanted to scream like the others, but her throat tightened. The car rolled over to the left into a steep embankment as each car thrust into one ahead of it and flipped over, thrown to the floor. She finally cried out and reached to hold on to something. Nightmarish sounds of crushing steel caused her to cry out. Glass shattered, train cars crashed, trees snapped as the cars plunged off the tracks. Then the sound of its steam engine came against the sudden silence. In those fearful moments, Louisa heard people crying, groans, but so few. Passengers were buried under a mountain of wreckage. Pain racked her body. She could not shift her right leg. Something heavy lay on top of it. Her head spun, ached. She touched her face. Horrified, she looked at the blood on her hand. Desperate to get free, she pushed against the debris. Unable to move the weight that held her down, she pounded it with her fist and sobbed. Jackson! Jackson! Could he hear her shouts over the cries of the others? Was he hurt or thrown from the wreckage and killed? Her heart seized at the thought. She trembled. Tears fell from her eyes. She felt cold, so cold. The hissing of the train engine boomed in her hearing. The and cries of living passengers faded as if she were in a tunnel. Her vision blurred. She closed her eyes and drifted into a painless abyss where she heard a soft, consoling whisper. Then I'm going to switch over here. leaving it at that. But um, so people don't think Jackson's dead. I don't want you to think that. Okay, so um, he sprinted off with the townsmen and other male passengers, searched through the wreckage, saving some, others gone before they could be reached. God save those you can, he heard a man say. Let me repeat that. I didn't read it correctly. Dear God, save those you can, he heard a man say. Jackson felt a lump grow in his throat. Why would God allow this to happen? He spoke without thinking, his sorrow taking over. The man looked at Jackson, an elderly gent with a white beard upon his head, a tattered gray cap. God didn't do this, he said in a raspy voice. This was man's doing. That train should have been looked after, and the engineers should have known not to make that bend at the same speed he made at on the straight track. No, it wasn't God that did this. With his aged body, the man attempted to lift a large chunk of metal. Jackson stepped over and helped. The man's watery eyes fastened on his face. You see our pairs of hands? God made them so to help the helpless. God didn't wreck this train, but he made you, me, and the other men helping. Don't ever forget it.
Mm.
So
Amen.
that's just a little bit.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
I appreciate you reading that.
Oh, thank you
And
very
I
much.
do appreciate how you have woven
Mm,
God and his, and his ever presence looking over after us, and
yeah,
how faith has just impacted the lives of so many people. Um,
yeah, that's for sure.
yeah.
That is for sure.
You and I had a conversation before we even started this, um,
Mm,
about how we are both have gone through things where we know that God's hand has been there for sure.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I had one person ask me about, the faith element, somebody that was not a believer. And, they were like, why can't you write books that don't have God in it?
Mhm.
And I told the person that here's the thing, the people in this particular time period, there were so many believers.
Yes.
And this was an age when people had a lot of faith.
Yep.
They were coming out of the era of Darwinism and humanism, and those who believed stayed strong in their faith.
Yes.
It's what It's like I saw a video last night of a church in Canada worshiping outside church because they were told they cannot worship, and they were singing the hymn, on Jesus Christ, this rock I stand.
Yes.
All other else is sinking sand, and that's when it comes to our faith and belief in God and His Son, and I weave it into my work. That's my goal, is that I want it, some people to be comforted to know what you just said, that He is there always. He doesn't forsake us when we're in times of trouble. We're we're gonna have troubles. We're gonna have challenges, but we lean on Him, and
Amen.
God is
Amen.
good. He is good.
It absolutely is. And
He is.
again, let me just say this for people who try to find you because of your name.
Yeah.
It's Rita Gerlach, author, on Facebook, but it's not spelled like you might think. So why don't you tell people what that is so that they can find you?
Sure. It's Rita, Rita. Then it's Gerlach. It's Gerlach, and I believe there's a dash. Let me check here real quick. I will give the link, and then
And
it's
I'll put the link out on
author.
Facebook as well.
It's yeah. Well, they have it in groups. They have URL is a group thing. But yes, Rita Gerlach slash author.
Okay.
And yeah, come on over and join in and have the fun. I have a contest going on,
You do? I saw
but
that.
the to enter is over, but I have a poll up. So go and vote on the poll.
Okay.
Some of the readers put up what their favorite Southern recipe is. And so everybody's voting of which one they like the best. And whoever wins first place, whoever gets the most votes, their recipe is going to be in the next book. And not the recipe itself, but the name of the recipe. And they will be in the acknowledgments page and get a copy of a book. They can choose one of my books.
That's
Yeah, so, and then there's a second place winner too. So yeah, come over and vote for these ladies and their
so
recipes.
we touch base on some of the characters, but if you go on that page, you will get to meet so many of them and a little more history maybe. Just so exciting. What can I say? I so enjoy hanging out with you.
I even have a post with the pictures of all the different animals that are in the story.
Yes.
You can't have a story without animals in it.
Right. Definitely not.
So,
Definitely not. Well, Rita, thank you so much for being
hey,
with us.
thank you,
Have
Joe. I mean, I
time.
love it. I enjoy it so much talking to you.
All right. And look up next because in the next few weeks, we will be doing an interview with author Karen Kingsbury. So excited.
Oh, excellent. That's
Yeah, so excited. I think, oh, here's your book. Let me see if I can get it up there. A distance.
there it is. Oh, nice. Oh, it's a hardcover. Is
Yeah.
it a hardcover?
Yep. It's a hardcover.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep. And if you go to Walmart to buy it, you get an extra chapter by what I saw. So
Wow,
yeah, so that's pretty
chapter.
exciting as well.
That's neat.
Anyway, thank you. Don't forget to go to our, this will be posted on YouTube and on our Facebook page. But you can make sure you subscribe so that you get updated information. I don't email you a lot or do any of those kind of things. You'll just get an update when something new is posted. So thank you. Happy Mother's Day to you. I didn't get it.
To you too, and to all the moms.
Yes, to everyone. You know, there's so many different types of moms. You know, I feel like I'm a mom to so many young people that are not my biological children. You know, some are even
Same
adults.
here.
Yes.
Same
So
here.
we just thank you for all of that. And we look forward to seeing you again, Rita.
Thank you so much, Joe. It
Thank
was
you.
great.
Okay, honey.